What's up? It's your boy, Ice Your Boy Gaming here, back with another video. And yes, it's been a while since I actually decided to make a full-fledged video. And here's the crazy part. Now, if you haven't known, I've been doing a series of where I've basically been talking about each Need for Speed and kind of really giving them a ranking in terms of system and overall where I placed them. But I got a little sidetracked and I decided to just rank every single Need for Speed. But I'm not doing it like a tier list because that doesn't really give a definitive answer. So, yes, that's right. We're going to rank every Need for Speed, in my opinion, in my personal opinion, and from the ones that I have not fully, but from the ones that I have played. So, not only will this be my personal opinion on each Need for Speed, but it will also be from the ones that I've played. So, guess what that means? Every Need for Speed from 2005 and down does not count. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I probably have played Underground, one of them, but I do not remember that, so it doesn't count. Each of these games I remember, so they do count.
Wow.
And so we're ranking it from the worst all the way to the best, and the results will definitely surprise all of you. Well, not all of you if you keep it with the channel, but it will definitely surprise many of you, shall I say. So let's get to ranking. And first, we're gonna start off with an honorable mention to Need for Speed Shift 2 Unleashed. And the reason why it's an honorable mention is because, one, I played the game. I remember playing the game. I just don't remember what I did in it. Yeah, so that kind of sucks. So it's going to be stuck in the realm of honorable mentions. In last place, to no one's surprise if you've seen my other rankings or lists, it's Need for Speed Most Wanted 2005. But wait, what? What's that? You see that in the corner? On Nintendo DS. That game, that is probably the most difficult Need for Speed in human history. I don't know how they greenlighted that game. You don't understand. That game should not be that difficult, bruh. It's a DS game, which means it's for an even smaller audience usually. Which means what? It would probably be easier. Nah, that game was cut from a different type of fabric. You don't understand. And I still have it to this day. Have I beaten it yet? No. I'm actually kind of scared of that game. That game is difficult. But it ranks low because, it kind of suffers from a lack of things to do besides get beat up by the racers and cops. Which, I mean, makes sense. It's a DS version of an actual game with no actual, plot line and stuff like that. It's just like you get in there, you race, you progress, you race, you progress. But, yeah, it kind of lacks a bit, which makes sense. Next up, we have Need for Speed Undercover, which, to be honest, I'm going to be honest with you, I do not remember the game this much, but I do remember hopping on the game multiple times to just drive on the highway. I don't remember completing anything with the story. I mean, besides in the beginning a little bit. But I do remember just driving around in a 240 on the highway. That's all I really did. And to me, at the time, when I was younger, that was fun. But thinking about it now, there's really not that much to it besides me just driving. So the game was fun, but that's where I'm going to have to rank Need for Speed Undercover. Next up, we have Need for Speed Pro Shoot. And I know a lot of y'all gonna be mad, but here's the reason. The game isn't bad. I had a lot of fun, but it suffers the same fate as Undercover. The fact that I didn't really play it that much. And the thing is, I played it a solid amount, just not as much as basically any other game on this list. Not to mention, I don't remember that much, but there is one thing I remember. That one song where it says "Watch My Feet" a lot. I do remember that. I do remember that song for sure. That was one of the main songs I played. I remember, I had to remember that for a while. I think it's that and one other song. But yeah, those were the only two songs I remember. I do remember doing the drag races. I do remember jumping on the big jump. But I don't remember enough. And that's the problem, and that's the reason why it's ranked so low. Now, if I were to actually play it longer, it'd probably be ranked in one of my top Need for Speeds. The game looks fun, and I had a lot of fun playing it. It's just, I didn't play it that much. And I'm not even gonna tell you why this game is here. It's basically the same reason as the last two. Like I said, and here's the crazy part. Out of the last two, I played this game the least, but I remember it the most, which shows you how impactful it was. I remember it still looked in the starter car. I remember the map. I remember the map music, which is the only song I remember, which is actually pretty funny. But otherwise than that, yeah, I don't remember that much. Like, I do remember picking the Alfa Romeo, that little Alfa Romeo hatchback. So I do remember that. But that's about it. Which is crazy. Out of all those three, this one that I played the least is the one I remember the most. Which is why it ranks so high. But we're not done with Need for Speed Carbon just yet. But let's continue on. Alright, in the next slot, we have Need for Speed 2015. And the reason it ranks so low, like in the original video, I gave it a good rating. I said it's a pretty solid game, but it does miss a lot of stuff. Of course, it was only set at nighttime. Like, the actual city of the map is just cut off, so it's really surrounding the city and stuff like that. And I kind of just didn't vibe with that. Like, most of the map was cut off, although it was a good game. I will say it definitely was like the starter kit for what we have now in terms of Need for Speeds. It kind of went down like, the same like line and stuff like that. But I will say a solid game, solid story. The actual map itself and the detail, the map felt dead. I feel like they should have focused a little bit more on the map. Instead, I will say they focused more on what seems like the story and the other details. So yeah, that's why it's ranked so low. Next up is Need for Speed Bound, the current Need for Speed that is, known within the Need for Speed franchise right now. Overall, the story is solid, but I feel like it lacks in a couple areas that definitely need to be fixed. I feel like there should be a little bit more traffic, especially with the style that they were going for. I also think to put it simply, like, there's just some things that it kind of doesn't do well, and I feel like they should have just fixed on. And overall, I think it would have been a better Need for Speed if it was left cooking just a little bit longer. So that's why I place it right here. Next up, we have Need for Speed Carbon, but on the Nintendo DS. That's crazy. This Nintendo DS game is the polar opposite of Most Wanted 2005 Nintendo DS. Because this game is actually good. It actually has solid progression. It actually has a good story. And guess what? It's not difficult. It actually is bearable. You can actually get good. Whereas the other game, you cannot get good. And so, overall, I would definitely say it's probably one of, if not the best DS game of the Need for Speeds. And you should actually go try it. The game is pretty fun. Though I will say, I lost the cartridge. I don't know where it went. But I did finish the game. I did 100% the game and got the boss car. So that's what matters in the end. Next up, we have Need for Speed Payback. And I honestly, for the most part, had no issues with this game. Two things I wish there was more structured better in terms of the game modes and stuff that they had going for you. A little bit of them were kind of unbalanced and they weren't really too well done. Although I will say the game overall was pretty great. The story, although Fast and Furious like and somewhat cheesy, was pretty good. The only problem I have with this game is, one, the physics were a little bit wonky, so it didn't end well all the time. And two, the final boss was so trash. Legit was the easiest thing in the entire game. I had more difficulty in the beginning of the game than I had with the final boss. I left the final boss in the dust. And the reason why is actually explained at the end is that she has some type of self-driving tech and it didn't do well. Or something like that. Like, she has some type of self-driving tech. Well, she should drive herself home because, yeah, she did not do well at all. She got wiped across the board. Like, it was just trash. So, overall, I'm going to say that's what puts it here. I feel like the final battle would have been cool if it was actually a challenge, had multiple of their house cars surrounding you, trying to take you down. And the funniest part is, with the way the game went, I was paranoid at the same time as racing, but nothing really happened. Like, it was like nothing really happened. I was sitting there paranoid, like, ooh, when is the house about to come in? When are they about to destroy me and, make me restart the game, make this more difficult? It was not difficult, and so that's why it's right here. Man, it really feels weird saying that this game is 5 years old, or about to be 5 years old, because it doesn't feel like it's about to be 5 years old, but it is. And so next up, Need for Speed Heat. I honestly have no real complaints about this game, besides the fact that it really isn't my formula usually of Need for Speed, which you'll see within the next few that are ranked above it. And so, this Need for Speed is honestly my favorite out of the new era, and it's one I find myself actually coming back to more than Unbound, which is crazy because if you think about it, Need for Speed Heat had more reoccurring players than Need for Speed Unbound, which is actually crazy, but true. At our 4th place spot, we have Need for Speed Rivals. And honestly, it would be 3rd if it wasn't for one reason. I first got the game in 2014, back when it came out, but the game went through some type of software bug or whatever, and I couldn't play it. So yeah, that was really a pain. The game went through some type of software bug and I couldn't play it. And by the time I got the game again, I wasn't even really playing the game itself. Not to mention, on top of that, to double stack onto a loss, I lost it. Yeah. And it wasn't like your typical loss where it's like, oh, like I'm never finding it again. No, it was a loss and it eventually got found. But by then, I was kind of really done with the Xbox 360. So it was a while until eventually I wanted to play it on Xbox One. And it had errors on Xbox One, which also didn't allow me to play it until Xbox Series. Yeah, that's crazy. I wasn't able to actually play this game until I was able to get myself on the Xbox Series. So yeah, that's a wild story, which kind of ruined the experience for me. Overall, the game is fun for sure. I will say that. I love the game. It's one of my favorite Need for Speeds. It has a great playlist, has a great style and everything. But it was just that really killed my experience. And for me to still rank it in 4th even after all that proves to you how good this game is and how better it could have been if I was actually able to play it during my childhood. So I can't really say I have nostalgia for the game, even though I did play it a little bit when I was younger. I can't say I really have nostalgia for the game because, I was barely able to play it, so that's why it ranks right here. At the number 3 spot, we have Need for Speed The Run. I got this game back on my 7th birthday. Yeah, that's crazy, right? I got this game all the way back then, back in like 2014 as well, which is crazy. But the one thing about this game is that I didn't finish it until last year. Yeah, and mainly because I didn't really know, not that I didn't really know what to do. Like, I honestly knew to continue the story, but the game, for some odd reason, I'm not gonna lie to you, that game has some weird type of fear factor going around with it. That game was on that game is the Black Air Force of Need for Speed. That game is built different, bruh, and it could be because it's more of a cinematic type story and more of an impact compared to other Need for Speeds. And that's the one thing I like about it. It had a solid linear story. It wasn't actually open world, which is actually pretty crazy. Because, most Need for Speeds now are open world. And even in 2010 Hot Pursuit, there's a open world mode that you can partake in. But this game wasn't open world. It had its own different style and stuff like that. And overall, it was pretty cool. And I liked the way the story ended. Very intense. Very action-like. They really should have made it its own movie. Which it basically was a movie. Man, they really should have made a part 2 to the movie. To the Need for Speed movie. That would be crazy. But let's get on to the next one. And next up, we have Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2010. Or remastered, whichever one you want to use. They're basically the same besides 2 cars. But I'm using 2010. Which is basically the same. It's still no difference. But either way, the game is crazy. It go crazy. Got one of the best car selections out of any Need for Speed. I don't care if the cars are too fast for the time. It doesn't matter. This is one of the best Need for Speeds with one of, actually, the best playlists. Which is crazy, because there's only one game that's better in both those categories, in my personal opinion. And yes, I did give more hype, and I changed the tempo of the video, because I gotta get prepared to tell you number one. But we're not there yet. This Need for Speed is crazy. This Need for Speed was cooking. This Need for Speed is what every other Need for Speed should be. Who needs customization when you got good driveration? And that's just a new word I made up. Driveration. Which you guys should understand it. And that's why this Need for Speed is number 2. It cooks. It cooks. And guess what? It cooks. It does stuff that the other Need for Speeds can't do. Not to mention the nostalgia rose-tinted goggles, but the game went crazy. It honestly did, and the multiplayer is fun, as long as you got friends. So yeah, you should give it a try. Of course, if you have friends, but then again, that doesn't matter. So let's get on to number 1. And at number 1, I don't care what you say about the game being a burnout ripoff, because it's not. The game was a different formula from the beginning, and it always will be. I don't know why y'all call this the sequel to Most Wanted 2005 when the sequel to Most Wanted 2005 is Carbon. That's how I know you guys don't pay attention. Y'all not real for the Need for Speed fans if y'all don't even know that. That's common sense. And so guess what? This is the best Need for Speed. And why? The music times 10 is crazy. It has all the music. It got all the cars with the good sound, solid racing. What even is a story? It doesn't need a story. That's how good this Need for Speed is. It doesn't need a story, and it's still better than Unbound. And plus, I just had a lot of fun in general just driving around the map, to be honest. Which is why I rank it here. Because if I can be that entertained by just driving around the map, finding cars, then that just shows something. Alright, ignoring that interruption. So basically, this Need for Speed is good because it has good cars, good music, good playlists, good effects. The game is still up to date. The game is still up to date. It is still up to date. Today, look at those graphics. Look at those graphics, bro. Go search it up for yourself. That game is up to date. That game goes crazy. It has everything it needs. A diverse playlist of music. Got rap. It got rock. It got hip hop. It got country. It got all that. It has all of that, which is why it's number 1, and in my opinion, the best Need for Speed. And there was a dude who made a video on it saying it has one of the best Need for Speeds multiplayers. And the multiplayer was live, but I can't quote that because by the time I came to the game, the multiplayer was dead. So yeah, otherwise than that, that's all I got to say. And I feel like I'm forgetting something. Shouldn't be that much.